He waited 999 years for evolution, only to fail at the last 1%. Now he's been reborn as the weakest baby dragon. Can the weakest baby dragon become the Dragon King?
A violent storm turned the sea as giant waves crashed against each other, rising and falling with highly destructive force. Lightning repeatedly tore through the dark sky, illuminating the absolute chaos below in brief flashes of blinding light. In the middle of this battlefield, a brave warrior stood his ground against a dark, towering beast. Despite his determination, the enemy's spear proved far too powerful. The man suddenly flew through the air while holding his heavily enchanted weapon. With one desperate final effort, he pushed forward and fiercely drove the sharp blade straight into the shining crystals situated on top of the giant dragon's head, shattering the surrounding magical energy. The monstrous figure radiated a dangerous aura as beams of light shot out from its glowing red eyes. The impact triggered a violent explosion of reddish crystals that scattered across the battlefield. Even though he was fatally injured, the protagonist forced himself to rise slightly, a blood-stained smile forming on his pale, exhausted face. Through the smoke, his defeated enemy looked surprisingly satisfied with this incredible duel, though his massive hands were completely broken from the clash. The dying warrior watched closely, thinking about his impending divine ascension that was now permanently ruined, filling his remaining thoughts with deep, bitter hatred toward this tragic conclusion of his life. His mind drifted back to the beautiful blue dragon that had needed only one more year to complete its ultimate celestial ascension. Now that giant creature lay utterly defeated on the ground, never imagining that it would make the fatal mistake of destroying its own vessel. Filled with immense fury, the beast questioned everything. The warrior, now falling onto his knees, was mocked as a helpless fool for his reckless actions. In its floating dragon form, the angry creature demanded to know what he had gained from all this destruction. Yet, the man calmly spoke with his enemy, explaining he only acted to repay a kindness received long ago. As he turned his face toward the storm-filled sky, he made it clear that this alone had been his final wish. At that moment, a mysterious voice echoed from nowhere, asking about a true name for the dragon. The entity responded with a sudden glow, questioning what name the distant voice was referring to. In the very next instant, a massive fiery explosion erupted from the water, consuming everything around it in a massive wave of absolute destruction. From the darkness that followed, a spiritual figure slowly emerged into an endless, empty void. The floating soul looked around in pure confusion, entirely uncertain whether this reality was real. Even after such a catastrophic confrontation, the floating spirit could somehow still feel its own heartbeat. Despite losing its core source of energy, there was still some power remaining within its body. The being questioned where it had been brought, declaring that sealing its power would not be enough to make it surrender. Refusing to accept this strange fate, the spiritual entity gathered what remained of its strength, desperate for one final effort. It focused intensely, channeling all its remaining internal energy into a single point to make a fierce rebellion. With a powerful burst, it successfully shattered the magical barrier holding it in place completely. As the energy dissipated, the spirit landed heavily on the ground. It suddenly noticed that the floor beneath its feet felt very wet and cold. Turning its head to investigate the surroundings, the entity was completely stunned to see massive, towering mountains of gold and countless valuable treasures scattered in every single direction imaginable. The sheer scale of the treasure haul was overwhelming. Carefully observing the area, the entity noticed a chest overflowing with precious jewels. Right in the middle of this immense fortune, it spotted a strange ancient stone monument erected high above the coins, with mysterious words carefully carved into its smooth reflective surface. The stone message spoke of a unique treasure and wished happiness to whoever read it. It explicitly mentioned raising a child, which made the creature wonder deeply. Out of respect, the being touched the stone, but as it did, it suddenly started to realize that something felt extremely strange about its own physical form. Turning toward a reflective surface, it saw its own image and immediately sensed a massive problem. Its face looked completely different. The creature examined its new paws, surprisingly discovering that they were small, short, and covered in soft fur. Its body had magically transformed into an incredibly round and chubby little baby dragon. Still confused, it pinched its cheeks, trying to understand what was happening. Looking again at its reflection in a gold coin, the realization finally struck. It had been reborn into a much smaller body. The creature stared in disbelief, unable to accept that it had become such a weak and seemingly helpless being. Slowly, it began to understand that this strange process was what humans referred to as reincarnation. Even though it did not fully comprehend everything that had occurred, it knew it needed to adapt quickly. Deciding to focus on survival, the small creature began searching the room for anything that might help it. Realizing its previous grand form was gone, the creature decided to face reality and completely stopped resisting its current state. Accepting this new life, the tiny dragon began to wander around the massive hall. It checked the piles of treasure carefully, wondering what kind of powerful magical items were stored inside this mountain. As it examined the vast collection, it noted that the owner had an incredibly strange taste in weapons. One shield carried a petrification curse that activated simply by being looked at. Another item had the ability to throw its victim into an endless inferno of hunger, making it seem like an ancient curse. There was also a mysterious wine bottle that could steal a person's voice and bind their legs, though the creature didn't consider that dangerous. Frustration began to build as it realized most items were impractical. It wondered whether the collection had been created merely to balance opposing spiritual energies within the hall. However, its attention was suddenly drawn to a small red jewel lying among the scattered coins. Curious, the creature looked upward, wondering if the gem had fallen from above. That was when it discovered a massive chest completely filled with even more shining treasures, leaving the small creature totally stunned by the sight. Its sparkling eyes grew wide with extreme excitement as it celebrated internally, feeling as though it had just stumbled upon an incredible fortune. Looking more closely, it realized these were magical stones infused with raw elemental power. Suddenly, the tiny dragon spotted a beautiful purple jewel whose dark aura closely resembled the immense power it once possessed in life. Without any hesitation, it wrapped its small chubby paws around the purple gem and decided to keep it, holding it tightly as if it was something irreplaceable. As it examined the jewel more carefully, it noticed that a golden ornament attached to the top was getting in the way of its natural flow of ancient energy. Tilting its small head, it used both its tiny claws and teeth, struggling hard to pry the golden accessory off. It tugged with all its strength, but its small body made the task difficult. With a sudden release, the ornament came loose, causing the little dragon to lose balance and fall backward onto its back immediately. The purple gem slipped from its paws during the clumsy tumble. The tiny being lost its footing and rolled down the treasure mountain, coins scattering everywhere. After finally coming to a stop, feeling slightly bruised all over, it complained internally that its previous powerful dragon form would never have suffered from such a simple and humiliating fall. Suddenly, the entire mountain of gold began to tremble violently. Coins and jewels slid down in all directions as the ground itself shifted. The purple jewel on the floor began to glow intensely, and the creature immediately felt an overwhelming, terrifying pressure emanating from the shadows, making the air inside the grand treasure hole turn freezing cold. A sense of fear rose as a blue energy distorted the space around it, as if reality was twisting. A massive glowing portal suddenly opened nearby, spinning rapidly with violent force. Sensing immediate danger, the tiny dragon gathered its remaining courage and prepared to release its own legendary red pressure toward the mysterious and dangerous teleportation circle. The tiny creature bared its small fangs, determined to protect its precious jewel from whatever was coming through the portal. But before it could unleash its red aura, a sharp golden claw slowly emerged from within the swirling energy. The sheer size of that single claw carried a clear and unmistakable intent to strike down anything. A massive blue eye appeared inside the portal, observing the tiny creature closely with a heavy, unyielding gaze. Suddenly, an immense golden dragon stepped completely out from the swirling portal and stood directly before the small being. The legendary beast radiated a majestic light that instantly illuminated every single corner of the grand, ancient treasure hall. The tiny creature faced the giant dragon boldly, wondering if this grand entrance was merely a cheap attempt to intimidate a small and innocent newborn hatchling. With a determined expression, it prepared itself for a fierce fight, letting out what it intended to be a terrifying roar, making it clear that it would not surrender its treasure. The golden dragon paused, clearly confused by the tiny noise. Moving closer, it realized the creature was just a hatchling. With a gentle motion, it used its massive tail to lift the tiny being off the ground. Suspended high in the air on the tail, the helpless hatchling felt completely terrified, trembling with tears in its eyes. At that exact moment, a soft light began to glow, and a calm, soothing female voice filled the space. The golden dragon's massive form began to shift gracefully, transforming into a beautiful woman with long golden hair and a lovely dress. She gently held the scared little creature in her arms with a warm, reassuring expression. The beautiful golden-hair woman gently introduced herself as Christina to the confused baby creature. Her voice sounded incredibly calm and warm in this cold hall, comforting his soul. While the little dragon was still trying to process everything around him, he silently wondered if she was actually giving him a meaningful new name to carry. Christina carefully placed him back on the wet ground and observed his physical condition for a quiet moment. Nodding softly, she checked whether he was completely all right before mentioning that he must be quite hungry. The tiny being paused, remembering that in his past life as a warrior, he could easily go months without food. But things were completely different now in this fragile body, and an overwhelming hunger suddenly struck him with massive force. His little stomach let out a loud, unmistakable growl that echoed in the empty room. Seeing his desperate need, Christina raised her white hand and used her magical power to summon a warm milk bottle from thin air. The mysterious baby bottle materialized instantly, appearing solid and radiating a comforting warmth within her gentle grasp. Smiling softly at the small dragon, she prepared to open the container, her deliberate movements remaining slow and reassuring to avoid scaring him. The hungry creature watched her actions closely, his tiny tail twitching with great anticipation and curiosity. As soon as the plastic cap was completely removed, a rich, soft, and inviting scent instantly spread through the cool air. The little creature's sharp senses immediately picked up the sweet, familiar smell, causing a bright flicker of pure joy to appear in his wide eyes. He quickly realized that the delicious scent was that of warm milk. His mouth watered uncontrollably as his chubby body reacted instinctively to the wonderful promise of fresh food. Despite his desperate hunger, his mind became conflicted, and he hesitated to take a step forward. A part of him clung to his former pride as a mighty warrior, making the small dragon want to drink, but afraid to approach. Seeing his clear hesitation, Christina assumed he refused the milk and slowly began to move the bottle away. The moment the food started leaving his reach, sheer panic set in. Forgetting his pride, the little creature leapt forward with all his strength, grabbing the bottle tightly with his paws and eagerly drinking the sweet liquid without thinking. Christina watched him quietly, her soft expression noting how truly famished the young hatchling must have been. To the little dragon, the rich drink felt completely unfamiliar at first, but as he tasted it properly, immense surprise filled his soul. He had never imagined milk could taste this good, lowering his gaze shyly under her focused attention. Christina referred to him softly as a little one, her kind tone filled with endless warmth. After a brief pause, she extended her hand toward his round body, offering him an important choice. She spoke gently about the vast world outside, mentioning that it was filled with many incredible wonders and delicious food waiting to be experienced together. The tiny being did not fully understand every word she said, but he easily grasped the core essence of her speech. He realized that she was warmly inviting him to leave this vault and go with her. He thought about it carefully, acknowledging that she did not seem like a bad person after saving his life today from danger. He looked around the massive hall, noting that this cold place offered nothing but useless piles of gold. More importantly, his newborn dragon body was currently weak and highly vulnerable. Surviving alone in such an unprotected condition would be extremely dangerous for him, forcing his logical mind to weigh the practical benefits of accepting her generous offer immediately. After a moment of silent consideration, the small creature finally decided to compromise with reality. He slowly pushed the purple gem forward, convincing himself that this choice had nothing to do with the sweet milk. Stepping closer to Christina, he reached out with his tiny claws and tightly grabbed her long dress, indicating he would go along. Seeing this intelligent gesture, Christina's beautiful face brightened noticeably, clearly pleased with his final decision. She gently leaned down, scooping his small, round body up into her arms with great care. Holding the creature securely against her lap, she expressed quiet gratitude, thanking him for surviving the ordeal and finally being born into this new world. Hearing her thanks, the dragon felt confused but realized her emotional words belonged to the original soul of this body. He felt a deep sense of gratitude toward that departed spirit for this second chance. With that peaceful thought, the little creature raised his paws and formally handed the precious purple stone over to his new guardian as a gift. Christina looked at the sparkling jewel for a quiet moment, wondering if she should keep it safe on his behalf. Instead of answering her, the tiny being moved closer and snuggled against her chest, wanting to comfort his guardian. She smiled warmly, hugging his small body securely as she turned around and finally carried him out of the vault. Resting comfortably on her steady shoulder, the small creature looked ahead and reflected on everything that had happened. In his heart, he made a firm promise that he would grow much stronger to ensure no one could ever harm him again. He resolved to take full advantage of every single opportunity that came his way during this reincarnation. Sometime later, the scene shifted to a peaceful bedroom where the little creature was sleeping soundly. He lay directly on top of a soft bed, completely surrounded by scattered, shimmering jewels. His small chubby body rested comfortably under the dim light, and he slept heavily for days, thoroughly exhausted from the intense events of his magical rebirth. Gradually, a full month passed by, and the young dragon woke up feeling completely refreshed. Now sitting quietly on the bed, the small creature decided to close his eyes and begin to gather energy. Even though this current body was totally different from his previous human form, he had finally become accustomed to its unique internal paths. As he focused inward to guide his spiritual power, he suddenly noticed Christina standing nearby, casually performing high-level magic to organize the room. Watching her control the glowing particles effortlessly, he realized that advanced sorcery was simply a natural part of this world. This discovery meant he no longer needed to train his traditional human energy center anymore. He could focus entirely on cultivating his lower core instead, which gave him a natural advantage that left him quite satisfied with his peaceful life. However, despite these amazing benefits, one constant problem bothered him. A strange, glowing little light spirit with delicate wings hovered nearby at all times, staring directly down at him without ever leaving his side. The small dragon couldn't help but glare back at this annoying flying observer, growing increasingly frustrated by its constant presence. The tiny entity never seemed to disappear, not even for a single moment during his private meditation sessions. It even floated closer to poke his nose playfully, making him wonder if the creature ever slept at all. He remembered that Christina had summoned this monitoring spirit out of deep concern for his safety, but its presence created a difficult obstacle. Because of it, he couldn't perform any physical training without being noticed. Frustrated, the young dragon closed his eyes and decided to gather energy once again, focusing his growing power directly within his chest. He had even tried to sneak away from the bedroom once, hopping carefully across the floor to move quietly without attracting the spirit's attention. But every time he attempted to escape, the annoying light entity would immediately fly out to alert Christina. She would quickly come inside and stop him before he could get anywhere near the door. Through continuous secret meditation, his internal energy kept growing steadily, becoming stronger with each passing day. Finally, with a sharp look in his eyes, he decided to try a direct approach. He resolved to gather his gathered mana and use a powerful teleportation spell to escape her sight. I know it is still way too early to make my move. Before taking any big risks, I really need to deal with this annoying little fly buzzing around me. My eyes lock onto the small winged spirit floating nearby. I definitely need to find a smart way to get rid of this annoying pest very soon now. To make things worse, my tiny mouth is making it impossible to speak a single word clearly. It is so frustrating because I cannot fix this until my body grows up a bit more. Watching this silly spirit constantly copy my every move only makes me feel super irritated and deeply embarrassed about my current baby dragon state. I try to glare at the copycat spirit, but suddenly my senses detect a familiar and powerful wave of mana approaching. I quickly go on high alert. Christina floats in gracefully, looking calm and beautiful as always. She immediately comes over to check on me, making sure her favorite little baby dragon has been behaving well today too. The moment I recognize her, I run straight toward her as fast as my tiny legs can carry me. Do not misunderstand, I am only doing this because I know it is finally lunchtime. However, Christina completely misinterprets my rush, thinking I am just super happy to see her, and she gives me a very gentle, warm smile. She looks at me warmly, wondering if she should feed me some delicious meat today. But as she gently opens my mouth wide, she remembers I do not even have any teeth yet. Looking at my excited face, she mistakenly believes I understand her words, quietly praising me for being such a clever and exceptionally bright little cub. I cannot help but sigh in my head, this is not some natural genius. I have simply lived way longer than she could ever guess. Still, my acting is top-notch, and she does not suspect a single thing. I keep playing the role of a sweet, harmless baby beast perfectly, so she stays completely off her guarded state. Christina gently picks me up now, thinking I want some cuddles. In reality, my eyes are only searching for the milk bottle. But I happily let myself snuggle against her soft shoulder anyway. I know that keeping this powerful guardian happy is absolutely crucial for my survival in this strange and totally unfamiliar new fantasy world right now. As she cradles me, her beautiful blue eyes melt with pure affection. She holds me close, whispering how incredibly cute I am while I rest peacefully on her lap. After a moment, she finally remembers it is feeding time. Without waiting, she summons my favorite drink and brings the warm bottle right to my tiny mouth very quickly. The moment I taste the sweet milk she gives me, I feel completely satisfied. I drink it down eagerly, thinking all my hard acting was totally worth it. But as I gulp it down, I feel a strange and warm energy flowing through my tiny body, though I still cannot quite understand what kind of magic is happening. While I finish my meal, Christina sits comfortably beside me and starts chatting about her day-to-day. She talks about all sorts of things, never realizing I understand every single word. Honestly, I do not care much for her long stories, but I quickly realize she just wants a quiet, cute companion to listen to her lonely thoughts. This habit of hers is actually super helpful, letting me learn so much about this new world. Over time, I have gathered enough random facts to understand almost everything around me. I peacefully listen to her voice, taking mental notes of the useful information while pretending to be just a sleepy, innocent little baby dragon on her lap. Christina looks down at me with a playful smile, clearly planning to ask for something. She checks if I finished my milk, and the moment she sees the empty bottle, I get a very bad feeling. Her eyes sparkle with mischief as she gently asks me to show her a super cute pose for a special treat. I feel a sudden wave of irritation. Even though I lived for nearly 1,000 years as a mighty being, I now have to act like a silly little pet just to get my lunch. But looking at her hopeful face, I know I have no choice. I reluctantly prepare my tiny body to do what she wants. 260 to 280s. With a deeply defeated sigh, I force my tiny body to cooperate. I let out a soft, incredibly adorable squeak, telling myself I am simply paying her back for the great food. Christina instantly squeals with joy, happily petting my head and praising me for being the most precious little creature in the entire universe right now. My face burns with intense embarrassment, and I quickly hide myself deep in her arms. I tell myself that refusing her request would just be rude. She continues gently stroking my back, her soft voice filled with warmth as she wishes for me to always be happy, making me feel a bit touched by her genuine kindness. At this point, I have to admit she is a genuinely kind and loving person. Soon, she leaves for her duties, and I flop onto the floor, wondering how to repay her. My mind wanders back to a past memory. A beautiful white fox once walked up to discuss my training. In that memory, the elegant fox walked up to me, asking what I was doing. I told her simply that my only goal was to ascend. She smiled softly and questioned if that path really brought me happiness. I replied that we just had different goals, calling her a silly creature who did not understand my great ambition. I remembered being so annoyed by her constant staring, demanding to know what she wanted. But she just kept looking at me with a deep, quiet gaze, as if trying to see right through me. Then, she asked me a strange question about whether I had ever felt true joy even once in my entire life. She asked if I even know what it felt like to be loved by someone. I dismissed her words immediately, telling her such soft emotions were completely useless to me. My destiny was to become a legendary dragon. I even reminded her that she was close to becoming a celestial fox, so she should focus on that. However, her next words caught me completely off guard. Looking at me with a serious face, she confessed that she had no interest in becoming a celestial fox, choosing to become a human instead. I was completely shocked, unable to understand why she would throw away such a glorious and powerful destiny for something so simple. She simply smiled at my confusion. She revealed that she had found someone she truly loved, who loved her back just the way she was. To her, that beautiful connection was worth giving up everything. She told me that when you love someone, you naturally want to return that warmth and give them your whole heart. She gently hoped that I would understand this feeling one day, but I just thought her ideas were incredibly foolish. I warned her that if she chose to become a human, she could never return to our sacred realm. Even so, I smiled slightly and wished her a happy life, hoping she would get what she wanted. Hearing my words, the white fox suddenly blushes deeply, looking incredibly shy and embarrassed. She quickly snaps at me, loudly calling me a dense, foolish dragon who understands absolutely nothing about a woman's true feelings before she turns around. In her heart, though, she still feels an immense, silent gratitude for all the kind things I have ever done here. Even as she prepares to depart, her thoughts remain focused on our shared past. She takes a deep breath, looking back at me one last time with a mixture of sadness and affection. With a final, quiet sigh, the beautiful celestial fox turns away and officially leaves my life forever, stepping forward into her newly chosen human future right now. I try to stand up, but my tiny, weak legs shake uncontrollably on the hard floor. Christina walks in with a gentle smile, asking if I missed her. But as she looks down, her eyes widen in pure surprise. She notices that her little baby dragon is already trying to walk all on his own now. I take a few shaky steps forward to show off my progress, hoping this will make her realize I do not need constant watching anymore. However, her reaction is definitely not what I expected. Instead of being relieved, her eyes instantly fill with tears of joy, looking at me like I just did something historic today. Watching my tiny steps, Christina is incredibly touched by how fast I am growing. Before I can even react, she scoops me up into her arms, hugging me tightly with overwhelming love. She squeezes me close, gushing about how adorable I am, and I immediately realize my plan to get some space failed miserably again. As she holds me, she suddenly remembers she brought a special treat. She reaches into her bag, searching for something soft enough for a dragon with no teeth. My curiosity peaks as she pulls out a legendary phoenix egg. I stare in shock as she reveals several of these glowing, golden eggs from her bag. The rare eggs radiate a soft, warm light that fills the entire room with powerful magic. I can feel the intense energy humming inside the shells, indicating the legendary creatures waiting to hatch. Looking closely at these glowing treasures, I realize a legendary phoenix is truly an immortal creature, highly resembling the vermilion bird from my past life. According to ancient myths, they are born from intense flames rather than normal processes. My dragon eyes immediately lock onto these mysterious, glowing treats sitting right inside Christina's heavy travel bag. Without hesitation, I grab the bag strap with my tiny paws and drag it away. Moving a short distance from her, I sit down comfortably on the hard floor to examine the loot. I carefully reach inside and pull out one specific glowing egg, holding it between my small claws to inspect the rich magical energy humming within. Christina watches me from afar with a gentle expression, totally touched seeing her baby beast trying to feed himself. Ignoring her gaze, I focus entirely on my goal and start peeling the hard shell open. My tiny claws work efficiently as I crack the protective layer, ready to taste whatever magical substance is waiting hidden inside. I raise the cracked treat up, opening my mouth wide as I prepare to take my very first bite. The moment the rich flavor hits my tongue, my eyes widen instantly in absolute shock. This incredible taste is unlike anything else. I happily show a face of pure, heavenly satisfaction because this rare meal is incredibly delicious. I quickly devour the whole thing, completely finishing my first egg while getting crumbs all over my face. Christina giggles softly, explaining they were roasted in dragon fire, and then she places a fresh bottle of warm milk right beside me. She reminds me to drink slowly and not overeat, even though I am a growing cub. The incredibly soft texture melts in my mouth like a sweet cloud, making me instinctively reach for another treat. However, my attention is suddenly drawn to one peculiar egg standing out from the rest. This red object is noticeably harder and heavier, causing me to pause briefly before deciding to leave it alone for a later time. I decide to keep enjoying the softer ones first, stuffing my face happily. But very soon, my tiny stomach reacts to the sudden intake of rich magical food. I end up rolling onto my back, feeling absolutely stuffed and totally unable to take another single bite, while my overprotective guardian laughs softly at my silly state. Christina gently pets my full belly, suggesting I take a nice rest before she heads out to handle her business. The moment she leaves the room, I slowly roll over and look at the remaining pile. I honestly cannot believe I ate so much food, realizing it will definitely take some time to digest this massive power. Suddenly, a wave of intense drowsiness washes over my small body, and my heavy eyes begin closing on their own. Before I can even fight it, I fall fast asleep right on the floor. I drift off peacefully with a very full belly, completely unaware of the strange dreams waiting for me in the deep darkness. In the shadows of my deep sleep, a pair of glowing red eyes stares directly at me with intense power. That mysterious image lingers in my mind until I slowly wake up, feeling a bit dazed. I stretch my small paws out, letting out a tiny yawn as I gradually return to reality from my deep slumber. Looking around the room, I notice the place is completely empty because Christina is nowhere to be seen. However, my gaze quickly shifts to a nearby basket, and I am shocked to see that the eggs have magically multiplied. She must have left this huge, fresh supply for me before heading out for the day. Feeling quite hungry again, I wipe the drool from my mouth, knowing enough time has passed to digest my lunch. Flapping my tiny wings, I waddle toward the basket. My paws firmly touch that hard, reddish egg I set aside earlier. Staring at it seriously, I decide right now is the perfect time to eat it. Since the shell is extremely tough, I realize a normal bite will not work. I close my eyes and immediately start gathering dark, potent energy deep within my core. A faint purplish electrical aura quickly spreads across my entire body, showcasing a terrifying level of magical strength that completely defies my current small, cute dragon appearance. With my power fully charged, I throw a massive, explosive punch directly at the stubborn shell. The heavy impact creates a bright burst of sparks flying everywhere. However, as the light fades, I stare in absolute disbelief. The egg is completely untouched, remaining perfectly smooth without a single scratch or mark on its red surface. The intense recoil sends my tiny body flying backward, causing me to land roughly on the floor. I lick my slightly sore paw, feeling deeply frustrated by my failure. A mighty 1,000-year-old soul cannot be defeated by a simple meal. Determined to crush it, I decide to try again, using even more destructive force. Concentrating deeper than before, I begin focusing all my available magical energy directly between my hands to form a glowing sphere. I take a powerful leap into the air, gaining massive momentum. Suspended midair, the giant shadow of a ferocious dragon suddenly appears behind me, amplifying my intense desire to smash this stubborn target completely. With a loud roar, I release a massive pillar of pure, destructive energy crashing straight down onto the egg. The violent impact literally shakes the entire room. I fall back to the ground, panting heavily and feeling completely exhausted. I lie there quietly, praying that my strongest attack actually managed to break the impossible shell. As the thick dust finally settles, I notice a tiny crack successfully forming on the hard surface. I celebrate internally, thinking my awesome power won. I reach out with my tiny hand to pull the cracked piece away. But before I can touch it, the shell unexpectedly begins splitting wide open all on its own from within. I completely freeze, staring with wide, shocked eyes at the strange scene unfolding before me. A bizarre force pushes outward and suddenly, a tiny, incredibly cute white bird pops right out of the broken shell. The newborn let out a soft, cheerful chirp, settling down peacefully directly beneath my hovering paw without showing any fear. I stare in utter confusion, wondering why a regular bird was hiding inside a phoenix egg. Slowly, I lift my paw and gently pat the newborn's soft head. The tiny creature responds with a happy chirp, fluttering into the air to fly around me playfully before rubbing its face against my cheek to show deep affection. The moment the creature touches me, I instantly recognize a very familiar aura. My eyes widen in complete shock once again. Suddenly, the tiny bird begins to glow brightly, radiating a powerful mixture of intense fire energy and my own distinct magical signature. This little creature actually possesses a unique, double magical trait born from us both. Our exhausted dark dragon cub collapses onto the carpet after firing his ultimate blast, realizing his devastating attack did not get destroyed at all. Crawling weakly across the floor after that exhausting effort, he suddenly discovers that the mysterious glowing egg completely absorbed his magical energy, transferring all that power directly into the tiny newborn white bird. The tiny ball of fluff hops around, celebrating joyfully, blissfully unaware of the immense power drained to create its existence. Watching this clueless little avian creature bounce around with endless energy, the annoyed black cub wipes sweat off his forehead, grinding his teeth in pure frustration because he cannot comprehend a single chirp coming from its mouth. Even though this hyperactive little bird is thoroughly irritating him, our brooding dark dragon refrains from kicking the tiny thing away. He allows the warm creature to rub affectionately against his scaly cheek, feeling its innocent warmth before absent-mindedly patting its fluffy head, wondering why this strange divine feather ball is acting so clingy today. Pacing restlessly around the quiet bedroom floor, a sudden terrifying realization strikes the dragon deeply. Gently stroking the bird's soft forehead with his small claw, he watches closely as the excited chick violently flaps its wings, suddenly suspecting this fiery feather ball officially recognizes him as its actual parent after absorbing all his magic during birth. Testing his crazy imprinting theory, the cub slowly walks across the room while carefully watching the bird out of his eye corner. The tiny feather ball immediately waddles right behind him, following his every move without hesitation, prompting the dragon to break into a fast sprint across the carpet to see if it can really keep up. Running across the spacious bedroom floor, the dark cub zigzags frantically to lose his tiny pursuer. Gazing back attentively, the persistent little bird keeps chasing after his tail without hesitation, forcing both exhausted creatures to run in chaotic circles until the out-of-breath dragon finally halts completely on the rug to catch his breath. Seeking peace away from the bird, the dragon leaps up onto a high stone ledge to rest. The scene shifts over to Christine as she marches down the corridor carrying a basket of golden eggs, feeling completely confident that her brilliant young dragon understands her every command and possesses a level of intelligence far beyond normal newborn beasts. Below the stone ledge, the abandoned chick lets out weak trembling chirps, its eyes glistening with sad tears as it feels completely rejected by its dragon parent. Feeling an unexpected wave of guilt creeping into his chest, the reluctant dark cub grumbles softly while staring down at the miserable creature crying helplessly on the cold floor below. Staring down at the weeping baby bird from above, the dark dragon hesitates briefly on the ledge. Reaching down gently, he finally jumps down to scoop the crying chick up into his arms, comforting the creature before tucking it close to his chest and climbing straight into his cozy basket to get some well-deserved rest. Outside the room, footsteps echo softly down the polished stone floor as Christina prepares to deliver another midnight snack to her growing reptile. She smiles brightly, imagining the little dragon gobbling down more warm eggs, completely unaware of the legendary divine beast currently cuddled up inside her sleeping pet's basket on the floor late tonight. Reaching the grand wooden entrance, she turns the golden handle and calls out softly, expecting to see a sleeping dragon lying on the rug. Stepping inside, her eyes scan across the room, noticing broken eggshell fragments scattered everywhere on the carpet, making her initially assume that her hungry dragon simply finished eating before taking a quick nap. Carrying her giant heavy basket loaded with glowing golden eggs, Christina takes another step forward, holding the massive food supply tightly in her arms. She searches around the dimly lit bedroom, eager to locate where her precious little black dragon is hiding so she can feed him another warm meal before sleeping peacefully inside the mansion tonight. 240 to 60s. Walking slowly into the quiet chamber, Christina scans the area looking for her young pet dragon. Holding the heavy basket tightly, she moves across the carpeted room toward the sleeping area, wondering if the hungry little creature finished all his previous food and passed out near his favorite cozy resting spot on the floor late tonight. Moving past the broken eggshells on the carpet, Christina freezes in shock midway through the room. Looking closer, she recognizes a newborn white phoenix resting securely inside the dragon's arms, coexisting seamlessly alongside dark magical energy as if an epic ancient destiny is quietly unfolding right inside this peaceful bedroom chamber late tonight in the royal castle. As Christina stands frozen, watching the peaceful duo, the soft basket wobbles slightly under her weight. The quiet atmosphere fills the chamber as both legendary creatures sleep side by side, bathed in a warm magical glow, while the tall woman remains completely speechless, trying to comprehend how a divine phoenix emerged inside her pet dragon's chamber. Watching the sleeping creatures, Christina moves slightly, causing the soft basket to wobble gently. The tiny phoenix stirs awake and spots Christina, and sensing a potential threat to its dragon parent, the brave bird flares up, unleashing its full divine fire aura to intimidate her with a dramatic cute display of glowing golden flames. Despite its fierce puff of flames, the tiny bird quickly exhausts itself from the sudden energy burst, tumbling sideways back onto the dragon's chest. Christina watches the hilarious mini-threat display with a gentle chuckle, relieved that the little creature poses no actual danger, while marveling at how naturally it shares fire energy with the dark dragon. Staring at the divine phoenix that somehow hatched from a roasted egg, Christina stands near the basket completely bewildered, totally lost on what to do next. Knowing that only one phoenix can exist in this era, she realizes something in the world is deeply wrong, sighing helplessly as she struggles to manage two legendary beasts at once. Disturbed by the loud commotion, the grumpy dragon wakes up from his nap, rubbing his eyes in annoyance. Without thinking twice, he casually grabs the little bird by its tiny wing and tosses it aside like trash, prompting Christina to scream in absolute terror and rush forward to catch the divine creature before it hits the ground. Christina catches the flying bird safely in her hands, sternly scolding the stubborn dragon for treating his newly hatched savior like a useless toy. The dark cub rolls his eyes in response, completely unbothered by her lectures, while Christina places the chirping chick gently back into the basket so she can think through this bizarre situation clearly. Frowning in deep thought, Christina ponders the strange dark energy lingering inside the newborn firebird. Realizing dark traits should never appear inside a holy phoenix and that this anomaly exceeds her knowledge, she determines that she must consult higher authorities immediately before this strange darkness corrupts the young divine creature or triggers disaster across the realm. With a quick snap of her slender fingers, Christina summons a glowing spirit of light that softly illuminates the dark corners of the room. She thanks the small magical entity sincerely for its guidance, securing her decision to seek counsel regarding the sudden emergence of this dark-infused phoenix and its weird bond with the dragon. Resolving to find real answers, Christina decides to visit the supreme leader of the fire dragons immediately to report these bizarre developments. Before leaving, she checks on the dark cub, who eagerly raises a tiny paw in celebration, secretly throwing a wild inner party at the thought of finally getting some peaceful, quiet time. Walking toward the entrance, Christina looks back at the adorable black dragon one last time before stepping outside the chamber door. The clever little cub maintains his innocent expression and waves goodbye, leaving Christina smiling warmly as she feels completely confident in her pupil's ability to stay safe while she is away on her urgent quest. Leaving the chamber, Christina heads down the stone corridor while thinking about the dragon. Reflecting deeply on his magical control, she realizes his mind is far beyond a normal child, comparing the clever cub to the brilliant red dragon prince, while silently vowing to become the absolute best master for this rising legendary genius in the kingdom. Walking along the quiet hallway, vivid memories flood Christina's mind as she recalls the dark dragon's unbelievable achievements. Remembering how effortlessly he manipulated complex elemental spells without any prior training, she marvels at his unnatural precision, becoming increasingly convinced that an extraordinary power resides within his tiny scaly body waiting to be fully awakened. Her thoughts drift back through time to the rainy evening when her mysterious mentor entrusted her with the dark egg. Picturing the hooded figure handing over the ancient relic with grave urgency, Christina recalls his solemn warning about the child's grand destiny, realizing that every prediction regarding this legendary creature is slowly coming true before her eyes. Walking through the inner sanctuary, Christina approaches the golden doors. An image forms in her mind of a brilliant red-haired young man sitting at a desk, deeply focused as he reads old manuscripts, while soft golden sunlight streams gently across his handsome face in the quiet study room. Recalling how that Red Dragon Elder's eldest son possessed monstrous talent, Christina smiles outside the grand hall. Pushing open the heavy iron doors, she steps inside the dim throne room, ready to reveal the Dark Dragon and Divine Phoenix to the Supreme Dragon Leader today. Knowing how messy this strange situation could easily become, the protective blonde woman prepares to leave the chamber to gather urgent answers. Before stepping away, she summons a floating light puppet construct, sternly commanding the tiny shadowy dragon cub to follow its bright guidance and strictly refrain from causing any ridiculous, chaotic trouble inside the mansion. The small dragon narrows, his eyes irritably at her instructions, thoroughly doubting she will actually leave him alone today. Unexpectedly, the gorgeous woman smiles warmly and gently stretches his soft dark cheek, making the little creature completely confused before leaning forward to press a tender, quiet kiss directly against his forehead with brief affection. The tiny shadowy dragon freezes instantly in absolute shock, his scaly cheeks burning red with intense embarrassment. Laughing softly at his cute reaction, the woman reassures him that she will return soon before taking a step backward, allowing the heavy, luxurious chamber door to slowly close between them, leaving behind a peaceful and calm atmosphere. Listening intently with his small ears lifted, the little cub focuses sharply on the faint sound of her footsteps fading away in the quiet distance. Confirming that his caretaker has officially departed, he extends his magical senses outward past the grand hallway, verifying that she truly left the area and left him completely unsupervised in the room. An overwhelming sense of sweet relief washes over the clever little dragon as he squeezes his tiny paws tightly together. A mischievous grin spreads widely across his scaly face, clearly thrilled to finally have this vast chamber all to himself without any strict overprotective adults hovering around to boss him around or control his movements today. Raising his tiny arms high into the air with pure excitement, the little black dragon wildly celebrates his newfound ultimate freedom on the floor. He stretches his small body vigorously to shake off his long confinement, feeling as though he has finally awakened from a frustrating hibernation state that previously kept him from acting as he pleased. 120 to 140s. Without wasting a single moment, the little dragon hops down onto the cold floor, grumbling internally about all the annoying restrictions that prevented his proper training. Now that his strict caretaker is entirely gone, he walks around smoothly, feeling completely confident that no one remains nearby to interfere with his ambitious plans or alter his actions. Suddenly, a soft, persistent chirp echoes from behind his tail, catching his attention once again as the little white bird continues waddling closely after him. Annoyed by the interruption, the cub scowls fiercely and grabs the tiny feathered creature with his mouth, tossing it into the air to get rid of the clingy bird once and for all. Instead of flying away, the stubborn little phoenix flips gracefully in midair and lands neatly right on top of his dark scaly back. The small dragon pauses briefly, realizing that fighting this persistent feathered hitchhiker will only cause more useless trouble, so he accepts the passenger and turns his focus toward the massive imposing door in the distance. Planting his small paws firmly on the carpet, the dragon lowers his body, preparing for a sudden burst of crazy speed. Sprinting frantically across the spacious floor toward the massive entrance, he repeatedly glances back to test the hovering light puppet construct, carefully observing whether the floating security guard will react or instantly alert his absent caretaker. Reaching the giant entrance in a flash, the dark dragon halts abruptly and gazes upward, locking his intense focus onto the massive golden doorknob towering above his head. He analyzes the heavy locking mechanism carefully, determining that if he can somehow reach that handle, he can easily escape this room without triggering any alarms in the hallway. Hesitating for just a split second, the ambitious cub decides to go all out with his physical strength. Pushing off the ground with tremendous kinetic power, he leaps high into the air like a tiny scaly rocket, successfully grabbing onto the giant golden doorknob with his front paws while dangling precariously above the polished marble floor below. Hanging tightly from the metallic handle, the little dragon turns his head around to check on the floating light puppet hovering quietly behind him. He observes the floating spirit's reaction intently, verifying whether it plans to interfere with his bold escape attempt before using his internal dark magic to force the heavy locking mechanism open from the inside. Refusing to accept defeat against a locked entrance, the clever cub unleashes a concentrated layer of glowing purple magic around his tiny paws. Channeling his dark energy directly into the golden doorknob, he manipulates the internal gears with insane precision, forcing the heavy locking mechanism to unlatch completely as dark aura surges outward across the metal. A subtle click echoes through the quiet chamber as the ancient lock gives way under his magical pressure. With a satisfying creak, the massive golden barrier swings open smoothly, allowing the proud little dragon to step through the threshold with immense self-satisfaction, having successfully bypassed the security system using his own incredible intellect and raw power. Pausing near the open doorway, the cub looks back to observe the floating light puppet construct hovering nearby. The little spirit glows with intense brightness as its internal magical programming struggles frantically in deep contemplation, trying to decide whether it should immediately send an emergency alarm signal directly to Christina or allow the genius cub to proceed. After a tense moment of hesitation, the floating spirit's intense glow shifts subtly as its attitude changes completely. Instead of blocking his path or sounding a loud panic alarm, the construct gives a slight gentle nod, granting the dragon permission to proceed forward into the unknown hallway, much to the clever cub's surprise and suspicion. Cautiously pushing his dark head through the open doorway, the little dragon steps out into a mind-blowing white corridor that stretches endlessly into the distance. Walking around the vast hallway to explore the luxurious surroundings, he constantly glances over his shoulder, carefully observing the floating security puppet to ensure it maintains its passive behavior toward him. The overwhelming sheer scale of the endless white sanctuary briefly stuns the tiny cub, forcing him to sit on the floor to process the unreal view. Realizing that his caretaker was simply being overly protective because of his tiny legs, he stands back up, thoroughly irritated by how unbearably slow it feels to walk across this giant palace. Complaining internally about the exhausting distance ahead, a devious smile spreads across his scaly face. Having already memorized every single detail of the high-tier spatial spells used by his master earlier today, the ambitious dragon chuckles mischievously to himself, ready to execute some serious magical mischief inside the majestic halls of the dragon sanctuary. Gathering a dense surge of purple energy within his small body, the genius dragon begins replicating the complex teleportation spell he observed Christina perform before. Shaping the delicate magical circles smoothly between his tiny paws, the surrounding spatial energy responds naturally to his supreme willpower, forming an advanced teleportation matrix far beyond what any newborn should handle. The spatial aura swells rapidly in the quiet corridor, distorting the surrounding air into a glowing purple vortex. Concentrating deeply on distant locations across the realm, the clever cub fine-tunes the magical formulas in his mind, amazed by how effortlessly the ambient mana flows through his veins as if spatial magic were second nature to his body. Noticing the massive surge of high-tier spatial magic radiating from the tiny dragon's paws, the hovering light spirit panics completely. Its luminous core flickers wildly in utter terror as it realizes the newborn cub is actually executing advanced teleportation magic, trembling uncontrollably as it realizes the absolute absurdity of the situation unfolding right before its eyes. Glancing back at the hysterical floating spirit, the little dragon smirks, making it abundantly clear that trying to stop him now is completely useless. Even if the guard construct attempts to intervene at this late moment, the complex spatial spell has already reached its final activation stage, making his immediate getaway entirely unstoppable within the mansion corridor. Bright purple magical energy explodes outward as the intricate teleportation circle activates beneath his feet. Levitating off the polished floor, his small shadowy body floats upward into the glowing vortex while brilliant light surges into the ceiling, marking the successful execution of an elite spatial spell as he vanishes completely from the magnificent castle interior. In a blinding flash of light, the scene instantly transitions to a breathtaking outdoor realm filled with majestic towering mountains and crystal blue skies. Appearing high above the vast wilderness, the little dragon marvels at the endless open landscape, only to realize a split second later that his teleportation spell deposited him directly into thin air. Gravity pulls the heavy dark cub downward as he plummets through the clouds toward the rocky ground below. Desperate to avoid a catastrophic crash landing, the tiny white phoenix flaps its wings frantically, grabbing the dragon's back with its small claws in a valiant effort to keep him airborne during the terrifying free fall through the sky. Despite the brave bird's frantic efforts, the heavy dragon continues plunging downward, crashing violently into the dirt below with a loud thunderous impact. A massive cloud of dust and debris scatters across the landscape as the tiny cub buries his face into the ground, his cheeks burning red with utter embarrassment over his chaotic landing. Recovering from the awkward crash, the little dragon sits up and spots the floating light spirit hovering nearby in absolute chaos. The tiny construct flickers erratically like a broken lamp, utterly hyperventilating from panic as it realizes they are now stranded in the wild outdoors far away from the safety of the dragon leader's palace. Watching the floating spirit's unprecedented emotional breakdown, the little dragon tilts, his head in confusion before a sudden realization hits his mind. He remembers that normal dragon newborns can never use spatial magic, slowly understanding that he has caused a massive disaster that will leave his caretaker completely furious once she discovers his unauthorized escape. Staring across the vast unfamiliar wilderness, the tiny cub scratches his head anxiously while the frantic spirit continues panicking beside him. Realizing there is no easy way to undo his advanced teleportation spell, our clever hero sighs helplessly, pondering how on earth he will fix this chaotic mess before Christina returns to find him gone. Finding himself deep in an unfamiliar jungle, the small black creature questions if this crazy situation even makes any sense. Christina always made teleportation look effortlessly easy, but realizing no hatchling should spam magic like this, he panics slightly while his glowing fairy buddy nervously wonders if everything is totally fine today. Remembering he already cast magic earlier, he realizes he can no longer hide his presence from nearby predators anyway. Overthinking won't solve a single thing right now, so he figures exploring his surroundings is the smartest move today. A confused tiny white bird tilts its cute head, watching him carefully as he goes today. Instead of answering, the little black creature decides to start wandering wildly through the dense, mysterious jungle today. With the bird and glowing fairy following close behind, he carefully navigates through thick bushes, crosses roaring streams, and climbs over massive sharp rocks, searching for a high vantage point to scout the unknown region today. Reaching the base of a towering ancient tree, he uses all his tiny claws to climb up to the absolute top branch today. Looking out into the huge distance, his eyes widen in total shock as he spots a massive golden barrier surrounding a valley overflowing with dense mana, completely hidden behind enormous high jagged mountains today. He instantly realizes that Divine Magical Valley is most likely Christina's massive dragon lair sitting right over there. Insane amounts of raw mana surround the whole area so tightly that the land itself seems completely fused with the shimmering barrier, marking the very first time he is witnessing her epic domain from the outside today. Quietly observing the breathtaking view, he feels relieved after finally seeing where home is on the horizon. Satisfied with his scouting mission, he turns around to head back down, casually convincing himself that the whole teleportation mess was probably just a random cosmic glitch rather than some terrifying permanent curse on his life today. Descending the giant tree safely, he strolls through the forest with the tiny bird resting on his head and the fairy hovering nearby today. He starts proudly thinking that Christina will definitely praise his amazing magic talent and calm, big-brained wisdom for handling this survival situation like an absolute pro warrior in the wild today. Believing everything is going smoothly, he confidently sets off to return when a mind-blowing, delicious scent suddenly drifts through the air. Stopping dead in his tracks, his nose twitches in pure delight as the extraordinary aroma completely stuns him, instantly catching his full attention as he turns his head toward a nearby bush today. Hidden deep inside the thick green grass, a radiant red plant glows with immense magical energy right before his eyes today. Recognizing it as legendary wild mountain ginseng, he realizes this heavenly seed grew near the holy mountain, holding infinite power that could potentially restore his lost strength if he eats the whole thing right now. Greedily staring at the glowing holy plant, he drools as he plans his delicious, power-restoring feast today. But the glowing fairy instantly realizes his reckless thoughts and freaks out completely, diving straight toward the heavenly seed to protect it while glaring at the hungry black creature with fiery rage to stop him right now. Annoyed by the distraction, the black creature tries to shove the stubborn fairy aside, but the tiny guardian refuses to budge today. Just then, the loyal white bird flies in like a brave feather warrior, executing a clean flying kick that smackdowns the fairy far away, creating the perfect golden opening for him today. With the tiny bird heroically kicking the stubborn fairy completely out of the way, the black creature wastes zero time taking immediate action today. Lunging forward with open jaws, he aggressively shoves the entire massive heavenly seed straight into his mouth, stubbornly forcing himself to swallow the oversized glowing root while assuming everything will go smoothly today. Suddenly, the massive root begins wriggling violently inside his throat. horrifying him as he realizes this divine holy ginseng is actually still alive today. The bird panics, while the fairy screams angrily as an absurd overload of divine energy violently erupts throughout his body, making him sweat profusely as dangerous chaotic power completely overpowers his entire system today. Feeling like his fragile insides are about to explode, he suffers an extremely intense toxic reaction from the wild, unrefined magical energy today. Sweating heavily and hyperventilating in total agony, he genuinely feels like passing out as green spiraling wind mono suddenly swirls through the dense trees, signaling the mysterious arrival of an unknown presence nearby today. His vision rapidly blurs into total darkness as the violent energy continues to wreck his internal mono channels completely beyond control today. Dizziness consumes his consciousness, making it impossible to stay awake while his panicking companions watch helplessly. Right as he loses consciousness, a majestic hooded figure quietly steps out from the dark shadows of the forest today. Soothing green mono gently spirals around his dying body as a beautiful, green-haired woman silently appears inside the forest today. Raising her glowing hand, she uses high-level wind magic to gently yank the thrashing heavenly seed straight out of the black creature's mouth, saving him from suffocating on the spot today. With a casual wave of her hand, she casts a levitation spell that lifts the weak black creature gently into the midair today. While holding the wriggling ginseng in her other hand, she casually flicks a glowing green medicinal pill straight toward his open mouth, landing it perfectly on his tongue with extreme sniper accuracy today. The miracle medicine melts instantly, soothing the violent internal energy while gentle green healing light wraps around his exhausted body today. Casting another protective restoration spell, she stabilizes his chaotic mono, allowing him to float weakly in the air while breathing heavily as he stares at his mysterious, beautiful savior in complete awe today. Through his blurry, heavy vision, he catches a brief glimpse of her calm, gentle face before she quietly turns around and walks away today. The green mono stabilizes his overflowing power, but his body remains far too exhausted to move as his eyes grow increasingly heavy while watching her mysterious silhouette vanish into the forest today. Unable to hold on any longer, the black creature collapses onto the soft mossy ground, falling completely unconscious today. The scene suddenly shifts far away under warm golden sunlight, where a stunning blonde woman named Christina stands silently while her long hair flows in the wind, surrounded by overwhelming ancient magical energy radiating from the mountain realm today. Standing gracefully in the bright sunlight, Christina arrives safely at the ancient territory of the noble Red Dragon clan today. The gigantic red dragon slowly lowers its massive head, its scorching breath heating the surrounding air as it greets Christina warmly, remarking that it has been quite a long time since they last met face-to-face in this realm today. As the proud leader of the Golden Dragon clan, Christina rarely visits another territory unannounced today. Shocked by her sudden presence, the Grand Elder of the Red Dragons, Fasces, drops his guard and shifts his massive dragon form into a human, remarking that a surprise visit from the Supreme Golden Leader is something he simply cannot ignore today. Fasces notes that whether he accepts her heavy request depends strictly on if it is worth his valuable time. Christina calmly apologizes for the unexpected drop-in before dropping a massive bombshell, revealing that a rare black dragon hatchling was recently born. Hearing this insane news, Fasces completely freezes in sheer disbelief and absolute shock today. Reeling from the news, Fasces aggressively demands to know why she didn't report this straight to Lord Issa first. Christina explains that the young child needs time to grow and build his own strength naturally. She intends to protect and mentor the boy personally, firmly keeping Lord Issa from interfering with the young black dragon's future growth today. When Fasces questions if the kid is truly worth the massive trouble, she reveals he is deeply afraid of the Supreme Elders finding out. Furthermore, she drops another mind-blowing secret. The young black dragon actually resurrected a divine newborn phoenix from total extinction. Hearing this impossible feat, Fasces gets visibly stunned by the hatchling's legendary potential today. Fasces quickly realizes the extreme danger here. If Lord Issa learns about the boy's existence, he will immediately try to manipulate, brainwash, or outright destroy him to eliminate any potential threat. Recognizing the kid as the sole heir to the Dark Dragon lineage, Fasces agrees that protecting his free will is crucial for the Dragon Realm's future today. Fully convinced by her arguments, Fasces officially agrees to Christina's bold request without further hesitation today. To support the hatchling's rapid growth, He promises to send his own elite son, Ri, to serve as a strong guardian and pass down all ancient dragon teachings, ensuring the young black dragon becomes an unstoppable legendary powerhouse in time today. Christina offers her deepest thanks for his crucial support, bringing their tense meeting to an incredibly successful close. Satisfied with the new alliance, Christina turns around and prepares to leave the Red Dragon territory today. Flying high into the open sky toward her lair, a casual random thought suddenly crosses her mind during the quiet flight back today. Realizing the hatchling wasn't crying from hunger earlier, she remembers she hasn't eaten a single bite all day either. Majestic golden energy swirls as Christina gracefully spreads her massive wings across the clouds today, soaring through the sky while contemplating whether she should hunt down a quick snack on her way back home to the lair today. Wondering if she should pick up some delicious food for the kid on her way, her peaceful thoughts are violently shattered. Suddenly, an urgent emergency signal from Ri flashes directly into her mind today. Sensing immediate danger, her expression instantly turns dead serious as she realizes the chaotic black hatchling has gotten himself into deep trouble again today. Without a single second to waste, Christina accelerates rapidly through the sky, surging with intense blue aura today. She instantly summons a massive glowing teleportation array right in midair, diving straight into the swirling portal to rush directly to the rescue before her reckless, trouble magnet hatchling manages to accidentally end his own tiny life today. Arriving at the forest, she spots the exhausted hatchling collapsing beside a half-eaten glowing plant. Understanding the situation immediately, Christina gently scoops up the weak little black dragon into her warm embrace today. She checks his chaotic condition while the panicking fairy and tiny white bird flutter around her in total relief seeing her arrive today. Examining the scene closely, her eyes widen in shock as she realizes what the idiot kid actually ate today. He swallowed a whole ancient mandrake that had absorbed raw dragon mana for hundreds of years. Realizing his absurdly gifted body is the only reason he survived such toxic energy overload, she sighs at his endless troublemaking antics today. Inspecting the residual magic surrounding his tiny body, Christina quickly realizes that a mysterious green dragon healer previously intervened and stabilized his wild internal mana today. Blaming herself for leaving him unattended, she scoops up the unconscious hatchling and prepares to head back to the lair so he can rest and recover safely today. Carrying him back inside the comfortable lair, Christina gently tucks him in and checks his condition once more today. After some time passes, the black dragon slowly regains consciousness, opening his heavy eyes to see her deeply worried face. Hearing her genuine apology, he feels a warm sensation, realizing how much she truly cares about him today. Lying weakly in Christina's warm embrace, the hatchling inspects his internal status, realizing the massive mandrake energy is still circulating inside him today. As Christina gently holds him and checks his condition, he looks up at her worried face, feeling a warm sensation as he realizes how genuinely deeply she cares about his safety during their quiet interaction today. After ensuring he is stable, Christina carries the hatchling back home to the lair where he can finally rest safely in bed today. Realizing his internal state is still a total mess, he comes to the cold realization that this magical world is far more dangerous than he imagined, swearing to be much more careful from now on today. Closing his eyes tightly, the hatchling enters a deep meditative state to focus his mind today. He begins gathering his chaotic internal aura, slowly channeling the massive raw mandrake energy through his mana pathways to refine it into pure strength, determined to absorb every bit of power to boost his core dragon attributes to the next level today. As he concentrates on refining his mana, the tiny newborn phoenix suddenly flies over and cutely rubs against his cheek to seek affection today. Startled by the sudden physical contact, the black dragon flinches in total surprise, snapping out of his deep focus as the hyperactive little bird happily chirps and teases him without showing any mercy today. Annoyed by the bird's playful teasing, the black dragon pretends to be mad before softly smiling today. Reaching out his tiny claw, he gently pats the phoenix on its head, causing the little creature to chirp with pure joy. A strange, comfortable warmth settles inside his heart, making him appreciate these genuine bonds he never had before today. Reflecting on his previous life, he realizes he never experienced such unconditional love and care back then today. If he had even one true companion like Christina or this needy phoenix in his past life, things might have turned out entirely different. Embracing the cozy atmosphere of the lair, he closes his eyes in complete peace today. As he relaxes peacefully beside his companion, a strange sensation suddenly ripples through the ambient air today. The little phoenix bird flutters its golden wings enthusiastically as a faint, beautiful stream of pure purification energy suddenly bursts out from its body, gently enveloping the young black dragon in a brilliant, soothing wave of holy light today.